Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen wa ahli bayt at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin wa lanatullahi ala qawmi a'dain ajma'in. Amma ba'd, faqad qala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fi kitab al-majid wa Qur'an al-hamid wa qawluhu al-haq. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu atiyu Allah wa atiyu Rasul wa ulul amri minkum. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is the third lecture in English in this institution of Ahl-e-Bayt, and as mentioned yesterday, today we are going to talk about the concept of Imamat or the philosophy of Imamat. We all know that Imamat is our third pillar of our faith, or in other words, Usul-e-Din. And again, we all know, especially, all of us know, including our children, very well, that there are 5 Usul-e-Din. And without the belief in Usul-e-Din, one cannot be called a Shia Muslim. And the other important thing to remind is that there is no taqleed in Usul-e-Din. We all, children and adults, need to be happy, satisfied and content that we know what it means and we know that it is true by logic ourselves. We can't say that it is true because our parents say so, it is true because our scholars say so, it is true because even our prophet says so. However, as we have also discussed, if the logic presented to you by anyone, your parents, your teachers, your prophets, your imams, satisfy you and you are happy that yes, this is true, I like this argument, that's sufficient. So Imamat, what does Imamat mean? Well, to us, Imamat means a divine office after the Risalat. So when Rasul Maqbool sallallahu alayhi wa sallam went away from this earth, then there had to be a continuation of guidance. And that continuation of guidance is no more called prophethood because Rasulullah was the last prophet of Islam. The new office is called the office of Imamat. And like Risalat, the Imam has to be infallible and the earth cannot exist without the presence of Imam. And this is our aqidah, if you like, or belief in a nutshell. And Imam is the most highest office for spiritual and religious needs. Not just for this world but for the hereafter. He guides the soul and the mind of the people, and he is there to fulfill all the targets assigned by the Prophet. Today I am not going to say anything new. You all know and you will have heard of what I am going to say, except that it will be hopefully inshallah structured and you will see the sequence and then you will have a kind of a concept clearance. So the ayat of Quran that I recited as the subject heading today is ayat number 59 of chapter number 4, Surah An-Nisa, and in which Allah Ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, so those who are believers, Atiyullaha wa atiyu Rasul, obey Allah and obey Rasul, and ulul amr minkum, and those who are ulul amr among you. What is ulul amr? Literally it means the people of authority. So this is a very clear ayat, which basically means that right from the beginning, at least since this ayat was revealed, Muslims are duty bound to obey Allah, His Prophet and ulul amr. And they will be duty bound to obey these people until the end of the world or until this ayat remains in Quran. That's totally clear and there is no dispute on this among us or among our Sunni brothers. The only difference is that we as Shia say that Ulul Amr means our Imams, and Sunni brothers might say that, or many of them do say that basically it means the people, whoever is in authority, in government or in power, in a Muslim country or non-Muslim country, doesn't make any difference. So let us examine this concept of Imamat in some more detail. And right from the outset, I should probably remind that whatever we are talking about is predominantly, if not 100% Shia Muslims. So we are talking about our own faith. We are not going to say that others are wrong, or we are not going to try and hurt the feelings. We are not trying to criticize other concepts, but just what we believe in, what is our concept, what is our beliefs. And Shias are also very clear that this office of Ulul Amr cannot be given by selection or election of any ruler like the world does. And because Allah Ta'ala asks us to obey Him, His Prophet, and Ulul Amr in the same way, it makes a sense or common sense to us that it cannot be anybody or anyone in authority. It has to be a particular office. So how do we decide that? Well, the only way to decide is ask Allah and His Prophet. In other words, look at Quran and look at the books of Ahadith and find out what's there to tell us about this. So can we as good Muslims elect or select people as our Ulul Amr or Imams? Let's read Quran, and in the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Ta'ala says in ayat number 124, and here Allah Ta'ala is having a dialogue with Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, who was one of the greatest prophets, Imamul Anbiya. Qala inni ja'aluka lil-nasi imama. Qala wa min zurriyati. Qala la yanalu ahdi zalimin. He said, Allah Ta'ala said, I'll make you an an imam to the people. So Ibrahim said, how about making imams out of my offspring, out of my progeny? And Allah Ta'ala said, yes, maybe, but no, my covenant is not within the reach of the oppressors. So now we know that Allah wants us to obey Ulul Amr. So there is somebody called Ulul Amr, but we also now know that office cannot be appointed by anyone, including the highest status of a prophet such as Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. So then, did Allah appoint Himself anyone to guide us? So let's open Quran again and see if it is true. And in 5th Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayat number 55, Allah Ta'ala says, Innama waliyakum Allahu wa Rasulahu wallazina aminu allazina yuqimuna salata wa yutuna zakata wa hum raki'un. Your wali, your guide, your imam, your ulul amr, your wali is only Allah, His messenger, and those who believe, establish prayers and pray the zakat while they are going in prayer. So the paying of zakat while you are going is not a usual act. Who's done that among us, or have you seen anybody or heard anybody? So this is pointing towards a very specific event. It's not something that routinely is done. So it's a very specific event, and we all know what that event was. Without going any details, basically we all know from all Sunni and Shia riwayah that was none other than our Mawla Ali. So now, what we have established, we know that Allah wants us to obey a person, and He calls it Ulul Amr. We know that this person cannot be appointed by anybody other than Allah, and not even a great prophet like Hazrat Ibrahim. And we know that Allah has appointed somebody who pays zakat while going, i.e. Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, and Allah calls him Waliullah.
MashaAllah.
But Amirul Mu'minin was not mentioned by name. That's clear, isn't it? There's no mention of that in this ayat or any other that by name. So how do we establish further? Well, we only have to look at, like we heard yesterday as well, at the whatever Rasulullah has said at the books of Ahadith and see if Rasulullah announced his imamat or wilayat at any time during his life? Of course, yes. Despite all the political difficulties and problems, Rasulullah did announce that. When did he do that? Right at the beginning of his prophethood, or when he announced his prophetic mission. And this is all mentioned, I'm not going to go into details of this. This is all mentioned in Quran, ayat number 214 of the 26th chapter Al-Shura. When Rasulullah was asked by Allah Ta'ala to invite his close relatives and give them the guidance. So Rasulullah invited 40 people of his own, close people from his family and from his surroundings. Invited them, eventually you have all heard this, but it invited them, finally made it to talk to them. And what did he say? He told them what he was all about, told them about the oneness of Allah, told them that he was the messenger. And then he asked them, who among you is willing to give me a truthful hand in this divine mission of mine and become my brother and my successor after me?
MashaAllah.
And no one answered. And you all know that he said it 3 times, and except one person, nobody else answered. And who was that person? Amirul Mu'minin al-Islam. And Rasulullah then pointed towards him and said, look, he is my brother and my successor among you. So, and this is all mentioned in detail in the Shia and Sunni books. So now what we have established, going back, we all know that Allah wants us to obey a person, and He calls it ulama. He tells us that you cannot elect or select him, I will appoint him. Not even prophets can select him or elect him. And he tells us is the person who pays zakat while he is in ruku, and there is no one else other than Imam Ali alayhi salam who's done that in the history. And then we also know that Rasulullah appointed Hazrat Ali alayhi salam as his successor. But that was, my friends, only in the beginning of Risalat. And only in front of 40 people. Rasulullah then lived for 22 more years. Long life. Okay? So why did he not repeat it? Why did he not remind people? Why did he not tell other people that, well, look, and even those people who stayed alive for that 22 years, they may have forgotten. Why did he not remind them? Well, he did. And in fact, the history tells us that on all occasions, he left no stone unturned, and he did not leave any occasion missed without announcing and repeating the successorship of himself. There are lots of riwayat in favor of Hazrat Ali, and what did Rasulullah say? So he called him Kulle Iman, in one battle he called him Waliullah in Khaybar, told people that if there was no Ali, there would have been no match for my daughter, the Lady of Paradise.
MashaAllah.
But let's go quickly through this and go towards the time, the end of Rasulullah's life in this world. Near his time, there was a surah which is surah number 94, and the last 2 ayat of that surah, Surah Alam Nashra. So in those 2 ayat, Allah Ta'ala says, when he's talking to Rasulullah directly, he says, when you have finished your mission, when you have completed your mission, your job, appoint. And then get ready to come back to me. Appoint. And then come back, or get ready to come back to me. And yet, because of perhaps some political reasons or difficulties that Rasulullah was anticipating, this had not happened until he has done his Hajj and he was on the way back to Medina. And on way back to Medina with 100,000 people in that place called Ghadir Khum. Now was the time, now or never. So this ayat came, which is ayat number 67 of the 5th chapter, Al-Ma'idah, and all of you obviously have heard that. Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik, wa in lam taf'al, fama balaghta risalata. Wallahu yasumuka minan nas. So, O Messenger, make known that which has been revealed to you from your Lord. And if you do not do it, it is as if you have not done your work at all. Allah will protect you from men, and Allah does not guide the disbelievers. So despite all the difficulties anticipated and difficult political problems, Rasulullah stopped, called those who had gone far away to come back, waited for people to come forward and join him in that Ghadir Khum. A temporary member was erected. Rasulullah went over them and asked in a very good, very famous speech. He asked people, have I not completed my mission and the duties of my prophethood to you? And people said, yes, Rasulullah, you have, of course. And they said, do I not have more rights on your lives than you yourselves? People said, of course. And then Rasulullah said, well, in that case, and then he did that speech, and then he held the arm of Hazrat Ali al-Islam, and then he said, Man kuntu mawlahu, fahaza Aliyul mawla. Whoever I am his mawla or her mawla, this Ali is also their mawla. And you all know that a big party happened after that, and Hazrat Ali was sitting in a tent, and all people came and congratulated him, and there are lots of people in history, without going in any details, who said that, oh Ali, congratulations, now you have become Mawla for all Mu'mineen. Once that happened, all the dust was settled. Jibreel came back again. And then he conveyed the ayat number 3 of chapter number 5 Al-Ma'idah. Al-yawma ya'isa allazina kafaru min dinikum falahum takhshahum wakhshan al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa razitu alaykum islam dina. This day the disbelievers or non-believers are in despair of ever harming your religion. So fear them not, fear me. This day, not any day, this day I have perfected your religion and completed my favor on you, and I have chosen you as chosen for you the religion of Islam. And there were some concerns obviously for Rasulullah as well, and so there were some concerns, and looks like I've got 1 or 2 more minutes, so I'll carry on. It is said that 14 people, obviously 100,000 people, but 14 people were there who did obviously Amir al-Mu'mineen's allegiance, but at the end, not in the beginning. You would think, when I tell you their names, you will think that they would be first to rush in and do the bayat, allegiance of Hazrat Ali al-Islam. No, but they were last. Who were they? They were Salman al-Farsi. They were Abu Zar al-Ghafari. They were Ammar. They were Miqdad. They did not rush. They waited right to the end. And some of them were very worried. Like they were almost not happy. These people, not happy. Obviously they were very happy. But then they came and did congratulations, did allegiance to Amirul Mu'mineen. But he said, one of them at least, said that congratulations, O Master of Mu'mineen. But the attacks on you which used to be covert are now onwards going to be open and frequent. Remember, what did the ayat say? Wallahu yasimuka minan nas. Allah will protect you from people. Remember, Rasulullah waited, almost hesitated, waited for the right time to happen. So there were some concerns, there were some anticipated problems that Rasulullah was expecting. And how right they were. All these 14 people and Rasulullah and obviously Allah, in their worries about the events that were going to take place after his death, and how right was Allah in his revelations. So what we have established now, let's revise and go back. Now we know that Allah wants us to obey not only him or his prophet, but he wants to obey Ulul Amr. And we know that Allah Ta'ala says that you cannot appoint that person. I will. The only being who has got any right in appointing that person is Allah himself. Not even a great prophet of the status of Hazrat Ibrahim al-Islam. And obviously that person was Hazrat Ali, who paid zakat while he was doing ruku, and Allah called him Waliullah. And we also know that Allah Ta'ala, Rasulullah, or Allah Ta'ala through Rasulullah, announced Hazrat Ali's successorship right at the beginning of his prophethood. Throughout his prophethood and towards the end, he kept reminding, and right in the end he did that in a spectacular manner in the Maidan of Ghadir Khum. and all Muslims paid allegiance to himself. And Allah called the day Imam Ali's successorship happened, He called it the day of the completion of religion. And that day, my friends, Usul-ud-Din were completed and Islam was perfected.
MashaAllah.
So of course Shia Muslims believe all this. Other Sunni brothers also do have the whole story of Ghadir Qum. But then why people forgot these things soon afterwards? Dear Mu'minin and Mu'minat, this is exactly the reason we are here. This is exactly the reason we commemorate and celebrate Muharram. Our 8th Imam was once asked, why do you make such an effort? Bar Muhammad wa alayhi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Okay. So our 8th Imam was asked, why do we make such an effort in remembering Karbala? So our 8th Imam said that just to make sure that you don't forget Karbala like we did forget Ghadir as well. And obviously it was our Imam, 3rd and 4th Imam, who saved Islam and showed that why Imamat was so necessary. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون